algebra students. I am going to work through the Unit 2 review for Test 2, and then I will have another video of Unit 2 review for Test Part 2 that will come next. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is a GCF problem, our greatest common factor. So what I'm going to do is put my original problem here in the box. That goes inside. Okay, so my 14x squared minus 16x goes inside my area model. My GCF is what they have in common. So if I look at my factors of 14, 1 times 14, 2 times 7, and then I look at my factors of 16, 1 times 16, 2 times 8, and then 4 times itself. I am going to look for what they have the same. They have 1's the same, they have 2's the same, and that's it. The greatest one of these is the 2. So I'm going to factor out a 2. And then I'm going to look at x squared and x. For x squared, I can have x times x, and for x, I just have an x. So what do they have the same? They have an x. So I'm going to factor out the x. So now I ask myself, 2x times what gets me back to 14x squared? Well, I know x times x is x squared, and I know 2 times 7 is 14. 2x times what gets me to negative 16x? Well, the x is already there, so I don't need that. 2 times negative 8 gets me to negative 16. So what is my factored form? It's my GCF times the remainder, what we got after we divided everything out. Okay? All right, if you have any questions on this one, please email me. Okay? Now let's look at question 2. Question 2 is factor. Okay, so remember, in our area model and in our diamond, this top left corner and bottom right corner together give us the product. So here, my product is the first term times the last term. So let me highlight that. Our first term times the last term. So x squared times 4 is 4x squared. Down here is our sum, and that's my middle term, 4x. Okay, so now I'm looking for the factors of 4x squared that add to 4x, and that is how I am going to split this 4x to fill in these two sides. Okay, so what are my factors of 4x squared that add to positive 4x? Well, I can do 1x times 4x, or I can do 2x times 2x. This gives me a sum of 5x, but this one does give me the sum of 4x. So I'm going to use 2x and 2x. And that fills in the lower left and upper right of my area model. Now we go back to our GCF. X squared and 2x have a greatest common factor, and that greatest common factor is x. X times x gets me back to x squared. X times positive 2 gets me back to 2x. X times what is 2x? Positive 2. And positive 2 times positive 2 is my 4. So my factored form is the quantity x plus 2 times x plus 2. Okay, so I am going to outline that in my yellow highlighter. Okay, and that's my factored form. Okay, the last question for day 1 review is our missing middle term problem. So what happens if we don't have a purple term? Okay, so let's take a look. So when we have a missing middle term, it is advisable to rewrite your problem correctly, as I am struggling here. 25x squared, I am going to write 0x as my middle term because 0 times x is 0 and 0 drops out. We don't have to worry about it. But that reminds us that we do technically still have a middle term. It's just 0. So I can still do my first and last terms just like I did on the previous problem. Oops, I want to highlight this also. Okay, so my 25x squared and my negative 1, and that gives me a product of negative 25x squared, and my sum is 0x. So I'm looking at my factors of negative 25x squared, and I can do 1x times 25x, but I need a sum of 0. So it doesn't matter which of these is negative, that is not adding to 0. So I'm going to check 5x and 5x. Negative 5x plus 5x, those are opposites, additive inverses, and that does add to 0x. So negative 5x and negative 5x, that's what we highlighted in green in the previous problem. Okay, and that goes into these two boxes here. So negative 5x, positive 5x, and now we go back to our GCF. 25x squared and 5x. 25 and 5 share a factor of 5. X squared and x share a factor of x. 5x times what is 25x squared? 5x. 5x times 5x is 25x squared. 5x times positive 1 is 5x. 5x times negative 1 is negative 5x. Negative 1 times positive 1 is negative 1. So my factored form that we highlighted in yellow in the previous problem is this here. Okay, so I have the quantity 5x minus 1 times the quantity 5x plus 1 as my solution. Notice I have the same values in each set of parentheses with opposite signs on the last terms. This is the pattern in our missing middle term problems. All right, so that's part 1. Stay tuned for part 2.